Greetings, my friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Let's Get Gritty podcast with Dr. India White. I'm super excited to be here with you. Happy summer to those that are through with school for the year, preparing for the next school year. I hope that many of you are taking moments for self care, whether that's going to the beach, going to the pool, uh, doing whatever, going on vacation, hanging out with family. I hope that you have been able to really take advantage of just recharging, recuperating, getting yourself rejuvenated because you put in so much work this school year and you deserve the best. So, with that said, I'm going to, of course, come on and remind you guys of some different announcements, and then we'll jump into the show today. I do have a planned guest, so it's going to be a great time. First things first is the Let's Get Gritty podcast. It is going to be featured on Swain Girl Media with Precious Swain leading that charge. So thank you, Precious, for that. So go there to watch it and listen to it. Also, if you would like to follow me on social media, you can do that by visiting Facebook. My main Facebook channel is Miss India White. LinkedIn is The India White. Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach. Instagram is Indie238 and YouTube is India White 123, where I go and I upload various videos for motivating you, encouraging you, and then just other little things here and there to connect with the audience. And also, I want to remind you to please check out my website at www.india-white.com for books or blogs, or to schedule me for a speaking event or a coaching event, whether at your school, for an organization or whatnot. I would be thrilled to connect with you. So, with that said, we're going to talk about a topic today. And before we do, I want to just kind of talk with you about the importance of this topic and why this was kind of pressed upon me. As you know, I have been really kind of taking on the work of grit in education and math education in particular. And I've seen it through so many different lenses as I have shared through blogs. However, it is starting to occur to me that grit can also be a resolve or a solution for students or leaders, even that are dealing with various hardships. One in particular that has caused so much chaos in just the way of work and education, and that would be with bullying. So, with that said, I am going to bring on a guest in a little bit, but we are going to talk today about how people or students can overcome bullying in schools through grit. So, with that said, I want to bring on a student that can relate to some of this topic, and we're going to just have a heart to heart. So, teachers, administrators, listen up because I think that we all can take something from this. So, with that said, please, please, please help me welcome to the Let's Get Gritty podcast, the one and only Alexander Rivera. So happy to have you, Alexander. Yes, your mic is muted, so we're going to wait for you to get that figured out. You're doing fabulous. Just once you get that done, then we'll be able to.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay?
You can hear you. You're just a little faint in your voice,
Audio.
but we'll just strain our ears to listen to you. So, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful, India. Thank you again for having me on.
Oh yes, definitely. How's your summer been so far?
So far, been busy. Been advocating lately. I just got off of a Zoom call with Equality Florida to
Mhm.
become an LGBTQ plus ally as well as an advocate.
Yeah. Wow.
And also happy
Okay.
Pride.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. I can hear you now. I think it's better. I think um we figured out our technical difficulties. So happy June. So much is taking place. I'm happy to see that you were able to make your rounds in Tampa Bay area, I'm assuming. And
Yes.
where there's so much going on. You gotta love Tampa. Absolutely love being in this area because it's so welcoming and diverse, and there's just always something taking place. But how's your schooling? How was your school year? What do you have planned in the future? Because last time we spoke, you were kind of figuring some things out. Talk to us.
So, as you know, I literally had to take a leave of absence to focus on my mental health. And so far it's been really well, as a matter of fact. I'm incredibly proud of my sister who um, is now going to be 19 in July. Um, and she had to leave because of some health issues back in February, and so she was able to go back and is currently upstairs in our house studying for her GED.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm glad that she's, getting things figured out there. And that's awesome. And you're also making strides as well. So you're give us any updates regarding your schooling situation.
So far everything's been going incredibly well. As a matter of fact, earlier today I made a visit over to Chamberlain High School to enroll in summer credit classes because I am kind of falling in between, credit. Like I'm almost there. Just gotta make up a few credits, and then I'll be good to go in time for graduation this year.
Okay, excellent. Well, that's good to know that they're taking care of you over at Chamberlain. That's excellent. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the topic today, which, before I brought you on the show, I let everybody know that we're going to talk a little bit about bullying and how students can overcome bullying in schools through
Mhm.
grit. Of course, my acronym for grit is great resilience in time. I want us to kind of talk, and I want you to talk to us about. Um, experiences that maybe you've had um, in school as a student, and answer this question: when did you experience bullying? Have you ever experienced bullying, and if you did, how did you overcome it with grit?
Well, in a tone of perspective, I think that I have been bullied a total of, I cannot tell you how many times, through elementary all the way through my junior year of high school.
Mm.
And practically the way that I use courage was the way, and that's my term for grit, is courage, giving great deals amount of courage. Um, and for that, I believe that there are certain issues that our students face on numerous occasions, whether it's at home or in the neighborhood or even at school. And I think that growing up, particularly in Seminole Heights around the time that I was in middle school, it was incredibly hard on my end because I just felt like there was nothing that I could do per se, but I was afraid that if frankly spoke up about what was going on, I mean, there's always the term, snitches get stitches, which, in my opinion, I don't believe is actually the truth, but in the case, it does happen. And I've spoken to numerous people, both counselors, both administrative staff, as well as support staff. And going into my sophomore year of high school, I remember one particular incident that, like, literally, there was this student who was giving me such a hard time that I remember she was riding my bus and, like, literally followed me all the way home and literally to the point of literally to the extent of literally being on my front doorstep is how far she got to my household. And I was incredibly frightened that, oh my God, she's in my house. What do I do?
Wow.
And so it was very, very uncomfortable because I keep my student to peer relationships alone when it comes outside of school because for one is when I mean, I do not have like a student peer relationship that I have, in the sense of like going to somebody's house and literally ringing their doorbell at 3 o'clock in the morning, asking them to come out and play. No, there is so many times that I've literally had people literally tell me that if I tell on them that there's going to be problems, and I can say for a fact that it's happened multiple times. But I know for a fact that it is a very, very serious issue that needs to be addressed both in county and throughout the state because our parents need to check them cell phones. Like a lot of times they think
Mm.
that it's important to call somebody between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night. However, I'm different. My mom is very very old school. She's like, either turn in the phones by 9 o'clock or you get your phone shut off. It's just as simple as that. As a matter of fact, right before I got on the show, I made sure that I handed my phone in. That way I would not get in trouble.
Mhm.
My sister, on the other hand, who's 18, going to be 19, does have a little bit of codependency because her friends have a good percentage of her friends had to move out of state, given the fact that they were being bullied in school, and so that's pretty much the only friends she has is through
Wow,
tiny little video camera instead of being face to face.
that's tough. So they actually moved out of state to get away from the bullying. Um, wow. And you mentioned cyberbullying. So do you think
Hmm.
that you experienced more cyberbullying than you did physical, emotional, and mental bullying in schools? What were some of your experiences?
Absolutely. I mean, I've witnessed both, all three, just about, through early early to late middle school and through my early teenage years, almost going into my early adult years. As a matter of fact, I've witnessed bullying happen, and I have told somebody, and that's what's important,
Wow.
and that's what we gotta understand is that there are children on them cell phones and sometimes on their computers on a day-to-day basis. Of course, I'm one of those people, but I do not bully. I'm one of those people that actually focuses mainly on getting my job done slash working from home this summer. Um, there's really just a lot of trouble that our children do not understand. Is that, as a matter of fact, cyberbullying is now a Florida statute, and now if you are caught doing it, then you will be, I believe, either fined or arrested. I'm not entirely too sure. But I know for a fact that there was a bill that did pass both through the House and Senate that would basically not allow students to cyberbully, or they will be, um, or they would suffer a penalty. I don't know what that penalty is. I believe it's either a fine or jail time. I'm not entirely too sure.
That's interesting. Well, some of the stats, it's very interesting to talk about this. So the National Center of Education Statistics, it gives great statistics on the different things. And so in 2023, around this year, it's talked about how one out of every five students report being bullied, and 41% thinks that it will happen again. So this is something. And so talk to me about maybe your classroom experience when you were being bullied. Was it ever in the classroom? Was it during halls, like hallway passing, transition times? Was it during lunch? Was it PE? Like, give an example or two of what you encountered.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, as I said, I mean, I've experienced pulling on pretty much on a day to day basis, but it's not like on a day to day basis. But when I was in public school, just before I left, I would say I cannot tell you how many trips that I've actually made to the office, and they would always get a slap on the wrist. I mean, especially when I was in middle school, I remember being bullied by a particular student, and instead of that student getting in trouble for it, I spent 2 days in ISS for something that I did not do. But the student made up some um, story. I don't know what it was, but literally made up an entire story that um,
Hmm.
literally for something that I did not even do, but yet was able to suffer for this student's insecurity. And I have had times during transition through going from middle school into my early high school years, especially freshman, sophomore, and a good percentage of my junior year was evolved around bullying. And I had to say, um, to myself, this is not okay. I need to stand my ground and tell the person either you quit or there's going to be consequences. And I've, rest assured that I am a big time advocate when it comes to bullying, and I defend people who do not have a voice. I mean, I've made it my mission, and that's one of the main reasons for my why as in public education and mostly a public education activist, is because I'm able to tell people about how I feel in what ways that I need to become an advocate to defend those who don't have a voice.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and I think it's imperative that you're doing this. Some of the effects of bullying include depression, suicide, self harm, violence, and the list goes on.
Hmm.
Um, Talk to us about how you've been able to kind of bounce back from, just some of the hardships you've experienced as a result of bullying.
Well, I can say for a fact that when I was younger, I am somebody who is very sensitive. And when it comes to things such as depression, suicide, self harm, and violence, it is something that I take very, very seriously. I remember one particular time I was being bullied to the extent of me ending my own life. And this is something that I've always, and it's my way of, getting the message out to tell other people my story and what I've endured. When I was 13 years old, there was this one particular bully who literally made my life a living hell, literally a complete nightmare.
Wow. What
And
happened?
he was just, being verbally abusive. He was picking on me because I was overweight. He was just, telling me, "Hey, your parents don't love you." And of course, when I was little, my parents had been through an ugly divorce, so it was hard on my end. And then when I was going into my sorry if I get a little bit emotional talking about it.
Mhm.
There has been times where I've literally wondered whether or not I would wake up in the morning, and I've I've and I would literally post. I mean, I remember this one particular time I did post a tweet saying that I was going to end my life, and had it would have not have been for my good friend and our friend Representative Susan Valdez to um give me a call or literally let my school know, I would probably would have already done it. But she calmed me down and she told me, "Alex, the world is sometimes full of bullies and you just got to learn to ignore them. And just by adding a comment can make a whole thing worse." And from that day on, I've never been really open about my depression, but as somebody who was recently diagnosed with MDD, which stands for major depressive disorder, I have to say that it is a very serious issue that our children need to take lightly. A lot of times, our students do not know whether or not they have depression, and they don't, want to tell them that they have depression. But I've always been an open book, especially when it comes to my health as well as my personal life. And what I've endured both through high school and through mostly my middle school career, I've always been telling people that it's not okay to bully. It never is. And as a matter of fact, my former elementary school used to have a sign when you walked onto the campus that says, there was no bullying, there was no discrimination, and there was no hate.
It's funny you say that. And I think it's a powerful sign. I was just thinking about this. I've really grown to love the work in equity
Mhm.
and in that whole space. And when you think of you were saying discrimination or you're thinking of hate or even, prejudices, biases, when you think of it, when people unfortunately are undergoing some type of injustice, because of the way they look or their skin color or their ethnicity or their language or a disability or their socioeconomic status, different gender, whatever. These oppressive actions that people take towards these people are all forms of bullying. And it's so, for instance, me being African American, someone might say, okay, I don't like her skin color. So I'll make her feel as if she is not worthy of being treated like a human being. So I'll put her through these things. I'll make life tough for her. I'll discriminate. I'll take from her, whatever. But all of those are subtle forms of bullying. And we call those microaggressions and different things like that. We have all different types of phrases for these types of bullying, but any forms of hate can be seen as bullying across the board. So even, I mean, there's so many different wars going on right now around race and other, sensitive topics. But they're all different shades of a big bully. And so, talk to me about, what advice would you give to someone that's experiencing bullying, whether it's a student or someone that just, is a little different from the status quo?
Well, I think it's important that if it's a student, tell a trusted adult. Don't be afraid to let somebody tell you or make your life a living hell. Don't wait just because actions speak louder than words. And what I've learned, especially through my career being in Hillsborough County for the last, well, since I've left, it would have been 17 years. But one thing that I can say for a fact is that we need to take into account that this is very, very serious, and also for the students who are enduring this. eh, if I mean, there are pretty much APs everywhere. I mean, you can tell an AP, your
Mhm.
counselor, your parent. And as a matter of fact, when I was being bullied, first thing I did was tell my parent. Of course, she
Excellent.
understood what was going on. And then from there, she took it to my guidance counselor, and then my guidance counselor took it from there and let my AP for student affairs deal with it. And it took literally about 3 months for the investigation to end because it was
Mm.
literally a wide open case between me and this particular student. It was making, some not okay. I don't know what was going through their mind, but everybody, and I think the main reason for bullying is they're obviously going through some things that I may or may not know.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a lot of times where if a student is already going through enough trouble, they sometimes use it as they think that in their mind that it's okay to use bullying as a coping mechanism. They're like, if I'm hurting, then I'm going to hurt somebody else,
That's horrible. So it's
and
like,
it
the
really
crap
is.
pot mentality of them bringing someone down to their emotional state of misery. And I want to stick on this because it happens to adults as well, where
Mhm.
people will bully to drag you down because of their own situations, their own hardships. Some people, they might see that you have a great family, they don't like your joy, they're going to pull that down. They might see that you've accomplished something that they didn't quite get to, they're going to pull you down. They might see that you landed some opportunity that they wish they could have, they're going to tear you down. Or they'll see that you're different. You might be presented differently, culturally or linguistically. And so, because you're different, they might feel like you're a threat to the norm, to the status quo. So, we've
Mhm.
got to destroy, we've got to annihilate you, we've got to sabotage you, or you're different. And I know it's a good different, but because you're shaking things up, and they might even have a little bit of the green-eyed devil of envy and jealousy and all those other things, then it's how can I sabotage it through subtle conversations, subtle text messages where I complain about that person, or I talk about how, oh, it's just something about them I just don't know, or I just don't like, or they just rub me wrong, and then they just talk about you and they eat you for lunch because you're different. And you did nothing to them. That is
Mhm.
bullying, and it's oppressive. It's mental bullying, it's emotional bullying, and people who are truly secure in themselves and people that truly love themselves, they don't have a means to abuse other people. And if you are truly successful, whether it's financially, academically, spiritually, whatever, physically, well, then you would not need to tear anybody else down. It doesn't make sense.
As a
Why?
matter,
If you're happy and if you're content and you're confident and you are fulfilled, then you should not have to tear down anybody else in your actions or in the way you treat them or in the way you talk about them or the way you take from them. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
and as a matter of fact, in connection to what you're saying, my counselor, and I love her dearly, used to tell me that, and I also got this from a movie. She used to tell me all the time, "Carpe diem," which is from a movie called The Dead Poets Society, which means to seize the day. At the end of the day, there is so much that I've learned, and my mom used to tell me all the time, if somebody, uh, I mean, this is what I've learned from my own personal perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and that comes from both. And I've looked up to my mother and Representative Valdez as the main source for my advocacy, as well as you, India. And the main source that I've learned, if you remember, at every graduation that Representative Valdez, who was a school board at the time, she used to say, number one, you never forget where you come from. Number two, you
Mm-hmm.
practice random acts of kindness throughout your life. Number three, if you stand for anything, you'll fall for anything. So be always to be sure to stand by your convictions. Those three things I have learned from her. And mind you, she was on the board for 14 years and has been in a state representative now for almost 7, almost 8 years. So I've learned a lot from both of them. And the way that my mom used to tell me every day when I used to go to school, do not let other people drag you down and be an anchor in your life, because they will. Half of them will take advantage of you and use you
Mm-hmm.
in ways that you cannot imagine. She used to tell me that if they were an anchor in your life, cut them loose and sail off and pursue your dream. And
Excellent.
so, and so I've learned a lot from both these women, as well as you, India, because I think it's important that we take this into consideration. Our children are our number one priority, always. I mean, I have an 8-year-old nephew. Okay, I do not want him to go and cyberbully someone. I want
Mm.
what's best for him. And somebody who who made fun of him for having who had a speech impediment. I had a conversation with that student, and I told him, I said, it's not okay for you to make fun of my nephew. I said, because you cannot help somebody who has a speech impediment. And a lot of people don't know this, but I also have a speech impediment myself. I have like a lisp in words that I do say, and people all the time mock me for saying those words. I mean, there's a lot of hate in this world. I mean, if you go down to downtown Orlando, you'll see a
Mm.
lot of bullying happening. Especially when it comes towards the community of both LGBTQ plus individuals, as well as the Jewish community. There's a lot of
Mm.
hate and a lot of anti-Semitism, and a lot of people don't know it,
Mhm.
but yet they see it on the news and they're not doing anything about it. But yet we need to understand something, that this is a very serious issue that we need to take into account very, very seriously. And half the times our parents are too busy to notice what's going on in their teenager's cell phone. But my good friend Bianca Goolsby, who is my rock, I mean, the woman is phenomenal. Um, Recently held a podcast, and you should check it out sometime. It's called Teaching for the Culture, and one of the things that she talked about was to make sure that people are checking their child's cell phone. You don't know what's going on, and like literally, parents want to say, "Oh, it's probably just TikTok and ain't gonna bother nobody." It's not entirely true at all, because they're either doing something they're not supposed to. I mean, there's a lot of apps that talk about discrimination, and it's not okay. Okay, I'm almost 18 years old, and I've never had a problem where a student would come up to me and discriminate me for being Hispanic. I've always stood my ground, and as somebody who served on student council both times for 6th and 7th grade, I can say for a fact it is not easy at all when a student is sitting there saying, "Oh, you're a loser." I said, "All right, fine. I really don't care. It ain't hurting me. It's only hurting you.
Mm.
And your actions, they may hurt me on the inside, but I'm not going to let it break me at
You
all."
know, And I'm proud of you for that. I'll never forget the girl that bullied me um, in middle school, 7th grade. I was in the band, and I remembered, but I wouldn't recommend this, but I just remembered she would call me a very inappropriate name. She called me the N word and then would attach female dog to it. And every time she saw me, that's what she would call me. You NB, you NB, you NB. To the
Okay.
point that I
I'm just
finally had enough. And um, I went to, I was walking with my saxophone, and um, I went to open the door, but instead she called me that. And it got to me so much that I turned around and I was going to, um, harm her with my saxophone because I just was over it. I was over it. And I remembered going to an administrator about a particular event like this. I think it might have even been that event. And I remembered that principal, that administrator at that time told me, they said, India, it's just a word. Get over it. And I remembered feeling like, wait, so you're justifying this person speaking to me, saying something totally inappropriate. And so I wanted to kind of share that with you guys because even as a young youth that I was, that still had a psychological effect on me, to where when I hear students and people coming forward and saying, yes, I've endured bullying and I've endured, mental abuse as a result, and emotional abuse, and then they're dealing with depression and suicide. These things are real. I mean, NAMI talks about how 1 in 6 students has a mental illness. So, we were talking about definitely making sure that we're helping students and leaders also to overcome different aspects of bullying so that they don't have to retaliate like I almost did, as a young youth. So, I'm going to talk now. I'm going to bring Alexander back on. I'm going to talk about tips to overcome bullying. So, for instance, some tips I wanted to leave you guys with: embrace a growth mindset. So, whenever you are, you know, dealing with what they're saying or what they're doing to you, especially cyberbullying is really tough because students can create groups, and then it turns from one person bullying you to 21 people bullying you in a matter of 30 minutes because they created a group, and then they put, pictures. They can make emojis about you and different memes. They can alter your images, edit you, and make
hmm
you look wild. And I mean, people can bully you in a Zoom meeting. They can, they can, talk trash about you in the chat. They can remove your picture from the screen, bullying you that way and laughing in your face. They can exclude you from parts of the conversation, or they can mock you and literally laugh in your face. So cyberbullying is tough
It
because,
is.
yeah,
If I may add, India,
yeah,
there is, in my perspective, I think that, um, because as an individual who has endured so much hate in the sense of bullying, I can say for a fact that it ain't easy. It never
yeah,
is easy. I mean, it literally, for me, it took many, many years. And to this day, still, I have to go to therapy for my depression and have to take pills for it,
wow.
because of the major impact that it had on my life. And I just,
How long ago did you first, so I know you said growing up, but when did you really say, "Okay, I need therapy for this because I can't handle this on my own?"
I think my first therapist, I was about my first bullying incident that I remember, I was 4.5.
What took place then?
What took place was the fact that this guy got on my nerves. I mean, it was and mind you, this was when I was back in the daycare days.
Mhm.
This one particular
Mm.
individual was getting on my nerves, and I was like, you know what? I said, I said, all right, fine. I didn't do nothing to him. He threw me on the ground. All I remember is that he went home crying to his mother, and my mom got involved, And what I did not know was that his mother was a police officer with Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. And so my mom was like, "Well, your son should have not have put my hands on my a disabled son." And mind you, at that time, I had breathing problems. Literally, I could not even lay down on my back at night. I literally had to be placed on a breathing machine just so I can breathe on my own. And this person was making fun of me because I was a little bit overweight. And mind you, I've struggled with weight all my life. And everywhere I go, like as a matter of fact, perfect example I can give now that you bring that up. Um, when I was at the Magic Kingdom, not even last year, back in April, I'm on vacation with my family, and this cast member said, "Oh my God, your family's so huge." I was like, "What?" And I looked over at my mom. I was like, and of course, wanted to throw some words in there, but I was like,
Right.
okay, my mom has taught me better than this. I'm in front of millions of people. I'm not gonna, drop the F bomb and literally, say what in the actual bleep.
Right.
But I was so nervous that I remember, getting the manager and I told her what was going on. It took that manager maybe about 5 minutes to find the person and fire her.
Wow.
So it
I'm
was
sorry that you guys had to endure that. That's
and it was
interesting.
hard on me, but like literally, I've been in therapy now for the little over, oh my God, let's see, I I don't even know how many years. I mean, I'm gonna say a good maybe 11 years, and they even recommended that I have to take therapy for the rest of my life, and because of the fact that
Mhm.
I do endure depressive episodes, and especially when I do get the word out, it makes me kind of calm. But I've looked for other ways of therapy. I mean, there's definitely a lot of different forms of therapy that I do. One of them is by writing stories on on Microsoft Word. Do they have to be necessarily true? No, because they're fiction. That's what I've always endured was, and as a matter of fact, I've always thought about one day co-authoring a book based on bullying. And as a matter of fact, kind of come to think of it, I am working on a book. I don't know the exact title yet. I'm thinking about saving it from when I do my PhD studies and do the dissertation defense. Um, but I think the hardest part for me is when we have so much. A lot of people think that it's okay to discriminate and hate somebody for whether it's their skin color, their sexual preference. I mean, I can tell you how many stories I've been bullied, not only for being Hispanic, but also for being a member of the LGBTQ plus community. I mean, it's really a lot of hate in this world, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. I really don't.
I just don't understand how people, honestly, y'all know I live from my heart. I'm just that type of person. I'm open. I just don't understand how if we're all on this earth, we've all been created for a specific purpose that we think we had the right to pull someone down in the way we treat them, the way we deal with them, and the opportunities we provide for them. What makes that fair? I don't understand how me being African American, you know, how I'm any different than anyone else in the human race because I'm a chocolate chip cookie and I baked a little bit longer than others. My thing is this: when you look at even, and we're not going to go too far into this, but you look at the origination of the human race, everything started in Africa. And it's not like, listen, I don't think the Almighty, went from Africa and, completely different race, and complete, do a completely different type of people that have absolutely, listen to this, no relation to their neighbor down the street. I don't think so.
And as a matter of fact, that
Yeah.
as you know, you are also the host of the Gospel Truth podcast, and I just want to do a little bit of a Bible verse here. It's Matthew 22, 37 that says, "Thou shalt the hang on, I can read a little bit if I may.
Mhm.
Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with thy mind. This is the first and great commandment, and the second is like unto it, thou
Mhm.
shalt love thy neighbor as thyself.
Right.
And so I think that's incredibly important that our community remembers is that we're all neighbors. I mean, we may be from different backgrounds and come from different races, but what's important is that we need to make sure that our community is together as one. And whenever I hear the song "We Are the World" by USA for Africa, um, I think of the different people that come together to spread love and hope, because at the end of the day we are all from different backgrounds, but we should treat each other as one instead of working against one another. Do I think that it's necessarily okay for somebody to, go out there and, say that they love, um that they care about our community, and then one minute go against our community by causing so much violence in the world? No. I think that it's important, though, excuse me, that we take into perspective that our children, um, I mean, as a mom, India, you know that it's important that your children are, because how do I put this delicately, that your children are loved, and they are. I mean,
Oh,
they
yeah.
excel incredibly well in school, and I'm incredibly proud of your children.
They have no choice
Um,
but to be loved. All the
and
days I'm here, yes.
like literally, I literally right before I got on here, the first thing I did is that I went into my mother's room, who was fast asleep, covered her up, told her that I loved her and that I'll be back later. But um, I feel like certain times that even when I did try to lose weight, I was discriminated. I mean, even when I was at Planet Fitness and they said that it's a no judgment zone, highly doubt
Mhm.
that because of what I've endured. It was like, yeah, no,
Well,
sorry.
I commend you, and the thing is, we all have different body types and, but it's all about owning yourself, owning who you are, loving yourself, and then you just kind of choosing, what you think is best for your life. I mean, I believe it or not, I also am very weight conscious, and I have a set weight, and sometimes I'll go above that weight, and then I deal with that being harsh on myself of, oh my God, you should be this weight, but you're only, but you're weighing this. You're 10 pounds above weight, you're 20 pounds above weight. And then I have that conversation in my mind. I've had people call me, overweight as well, in my particular frame because I don't weigh, 130. And I've had to love myself enough to know that yes, they are entitled to their opinions and they're entitled to what they feel. But at the end of the day, I have to love India enough to say I love myself for who I am today. And, whether people pick on the way I look because of my skin color, or they pick on me because of whatever else, that's fine. Let them own that. But I'm going to intentionally seek out people and energy that love me for who I am. And I think that's what you have to do as well. And you can use grit to help you overcome and whether it's bullying and things like that. And that's why point 4 here says, I want you to look at points 2 and 4. For one, don't take it personally. So many people will taunt you and pick on you because, like I said, they've got other things going on and they're not happy with themselves. I mean, if you're sincerely, just think about it. If you're happy, you're making the kind of money you want, you have the kind of career you want, you're around the right friends and people you want, why do you have to tear down someone else? It's obviously because they are dealing with other things, and they are not content with their own lives. Some people might have it all, but inside they are miserable. They can have millions of dollars, and inside they are just, their stomach churns. They've got anxiety, they've got other different things. They have so much bottled up inside, whether it's regret or hate, remorse, whatever, and they can take it out on you because even though they look like they got it all, inside they are going through misery. So this is why you can't take it personally, because you don't know the big picture of why these people are that way. Then number 4, surround yourself with a support group. You don't want to do it alone. Find someone that you can text and say, "Hey, just thinking of you. Love you. Hope you're well. Thanks for being awesome in my life." Find someone that you can talk to, whether it's your therapist or, find someone, even if you're like, I'm an extrovert, people know that. If you go to like Walmart or somewhere and you just walk around just to see people, just to, like, I don't know, I love being around awesome, positive people. And sometimes I like just being thrown in to the mix, whether it's like at Walmart, or at the fair, at the mall, at the beach, like just around other people, because you really can get a sense of positivity when you are around others. Their
Mhm.
smile, their polite gestures to you. People are really cool, and it's just a couple of them that just, they got to work on their own, that self-love, so that they can be more loving to other
Mhm.
people. So I
Right.
want to encourage you with those points for sure of this.
And
You're overcoming
I
bullying.
have to say that India, you are definitely one of my support systems. I mean, especially when I was going through um, one of the tough phases of my life. I mean, like how we communicated yesterday and just had a decent phone conversation. And so, one of the things that the ways that I cope with my depression, I mean, there are a lot of really different ways. I mean, the main source that I use is by keeping a journal and just writing down my thoughts. I mean,
Beautiful.
I keep it on my laptop, and whenever I feel tired, I mean, sometimes I have like really bad insomnia, and like I'll be up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and literally, not even joking, 5 o'clock in the morning, literally writing in my journal, and my mom coming in the room like, "Are you even awake?" Like, but there was a message that my friend actually sent me, and I'm gonna read just a sample of it. Um, he wrote, how I was feeling, and I told him that I was doing well, and then he sends me a message saying, "I love you so much that words can never express the actual deep depth of my feelings. You are a herald of good fortune for me," and um,
Oh,
that literally tugged at my heartstrings in a
yeah.
way. And so having friends like you and like Representative Valdez, as well as several, I mean, there are so many friends on my Facebook page that I try to talk to. I mean, I talked to my good friend Mary, who recently lost her husband back in March.
Mm.
Um, and so I keep in touch with her from time to time. And she told me one of the ways that she copes is with painting. She does
Hmm,
painting as a therapy. And
nice.
so there are a lot of really different ways to deal with it. And as a matter of fact, if you need someone to talk to, don't. And as somebody used to say, if you see something, say something.
Yes.
But as I said earlier, if you need anything, I mean anybody, just know to your viewers that I'm here and I am listening, and and I always have an open book. I just try to stay within the boundaries here, but other than that, I mean, it's um, very, very important that we take it into consideration.
Beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. And I will share your contact information as well in a little bit. And, I just want to remind people of, like Alexander was saying, the importance of having a way to cope, whether it's bullying or whether it's something else, depression or some situation that you're dealing with, whether it's a journal, going to the beach, working out, which, by the way, studies have shown that working out does improve your mood. So if you work out maybe 3 times, a week. It doesn't have to be for 30 minutes. Maybe it's just a 5-minute walk. Maybe it's just a 10-minute, time on the treadmill. Like, it's your life. You choose what you want. Sometimes I work out for an hour. Sometimes I work out for 30 minutes. Sometimes 45. Sometimes 15 minutes. But guess what? It helps with your mood. It helps. So that was one thing. And then also, of course, gardening. They talked about how, if you garden, it's kind of like the same effect that working out does. And I am a gardener. I love to garden, and I find that when you are dealing with, an overwhelming situation, if you find you a pot and some dirt, and you go for it and plant something, and then you see the reward of that down the road, it really is very fulfilling. So, I would highly recommend that as well. So, with that said, guys, this has been a phenomenal show, and I'm so thankful, Alexander, that you were able to come on. And so, with that said, would you mind sharing with us your
I
information? How can we
I think I already
get in
did
touch with you?
through the chat. Oh, there we
Yes.
go.
Okay, and then I think so here we have his contact information. So LinkedIn, it's Alex B. Rivera. Twitter is real Alex B. Rivera. Then you've got Facebook, Alex B. Rivera, Florida. Okay. And then Instagram is Alexander B. Rivera. So awesome.
I'm
So it
also
looks
gonna
like
put my email as well as my phone number in the chat. And
okay.
there's the email, and then just give me a second while I type in my phone number
Mm-hmm.
here. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
yeah, I see your information here. I'm going to get this over to our um audience. Give me 1 second, guys, as I add this for
I, I
our
don't know if
viewers.
it's just me, but like literally for the past 3 days, I've been battling this crazy um, sinus infection, and like literally, it's definitely not COVID. I don't know because like here in the office where I'm at, it always goes from hot to cold, hot to cold. Literally, where my kitchen is, literally walking downstairs the other day just to grab a drink was like
But
walking
like,
into
do you
a
think it's like
walk-in freezer.
pollen? Do you think it's like pollen or something?
Sorry, what?
I don't know if it's like
Oh,
pollen or something.
oh, I thought you were saying something's wrong and somebody's calling.
No, 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 no. You're talking
I
about
was about to
allergies.
say,
I don't
huh?
know if you were, yeah, I don't know if you were allergic or if it's like pollen in the
I
air or
have no
something.
idea. I don't know.
But
It's
we're in
definitely
Florida, so we get
April.
everything. We're in
Yeah,
Florida. We've got it all. So, we just got to
right.
figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So, but yes, guys, also here is Alexander's email. So, and I do believe you also said, Alexander, regarding the time, Monday through Friday from 8 o'clock a.m. to 4 p.m. is his availability. You can call him on his cell phone, but I'm going to actually allow you guys to email him if you're wanting to follow up out of respect. But his hours of availability are 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Please remember he is in summer school, or in summer now. So I would highly recommend giving
And
him
it's
those
gonna
couple
change
hours of
actually this
sleep.
Friday, so it will be from 8 o'clock. It will actually be from 10 o'clock in the morning to about 2 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. Awesome.
So
So, yeah. So, with that
that's my
said, guys,
schedule.
this has been fantastic, Alexander, having you on the show once again. Thank you so much for always being a willing student representative and bringing so much wealth regarding your experiences as a student in the education system today. So, with that said, guys, thanks so much for joining the Let's Get Gritty podcast with Dr. India White featuring Alexander Rivera. Remember to take grit with you no matter where you go. Feel free to check out my website, www.india-white.com, for some new merchandise on grit or some workbooks, or if you're wanting to book me for an event of some sort. And Alexander, do you have any last bit of advice that you would like our listeners to leave with?
The best piece of advice that I can give you is have great deals amount of courage. And I'm gonna say the same thing as I said earlier. In the words of Representative Valdez, number one, you always never forget where you come from. Number two, you always practice random acts of kindness throughout your life. Number three, always stand by your convictions because you'll fall for anything. So be sure to
Mm.
always have great deals amount of courage because if you have courage, you can do anything.
Beautiful. And thank you so much for those nuggets of wisdom. So, with that said, guys, have a fantastic night. Thanks for joining us on the Let's Get Gritty podcast with Dr. Anil White. And until next time, stay gritty. See you, Alex.